A long time ago, I shared this perspective on Superman. You guys, some of you might remember. It seemed to confuse people that Superman, in his heyday, would stand strong when someone was shooting at him and would repel the bullets off his chest. And yet when the bad guy threw the gun at him, Superman would duck. And we wondered, what does this supposedly say about this unstoppable hero? Well, according to the Google, because I asked it, it says that he has common sense. See, one of his superpowers was to repel bullets. So he could do that because it was his superpower. But he did not have the capability to sustain a head wound from a projectile gun. So it's interesting. It would seem, then, that some superheroes have limitations, fallibilities. And we accept that without question. We're like, oh, yeah, that kryptonite thing. Got it. Totally understand. So how does this relate to us? Some of you are way ahead of me on this, I know. Why are we so willing to be understanding when a superhero has a limitation or a vulnerability, and yet not as kind to ourselves when we have one? What makes a superhero different from us? What makes a superhero a superhero? A commitment to doing good, the ability to stand up after being knocked down, facing a physical challenge by turning it into an advantage, taking on a persona of strength to mask an internal experience or history of pain. From my perspective, that makes us all superheroes. We do many, some of us do all of these things every day. Overcoming obstacles, releasing our past. We do simple kindnesses or small acts of chivalry. We overcome the obstacles that are both internal and external. Barely noticeable gifts of gentleness, learning how to live with whatever stories we have survived from our childhood or from last week. This is from Batman, and I really liked it. A hero can be anyone. I changed it to anyone. A hero can be anyone, even a person. Sorry, I changed man to person. Even a person doing something as simple and reassuring as putting a coat around a little boy's shoulder to let him know that the world hadn't ended. I have two longtime friends, and I'm really, really blessed by them. And I call them Team Rachel. And whenever anything's going kaflooey in my life, all I need to do is send out an email calling on Team Rachel, and those two go into action like superheroes, and it's a powerful experience. We've all seen this. Superheroes who live among us, doing their thing, living their lives. Some are volunteering in their local community. Some are doing great work on a more global scale. Some are very vocal. Some prefer to do their superhero work more quietly and behind the scenes. Some are doing battles with invisible foes, and some with more visible ones. There are people who face horrific physical health challenges, who are trying to figure out each day how to heal and return to their lives as they remember them. And there are those who are yielding to the journey that their body is on, knowing that it means the end of their life is near. I've seen some of those people look right at what's happening and say, fine, I won't go quietly though. Very superhero-ish. Whatever our challenge is, as long as we are still here and trying, that means we are walking, living, and breathing with the knowledge, conscious or not, the knowledge that we are stronger than anything that's thrown at us. That makes us superheroes. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Thoughts Become Things folks, Mike Dooley, and he sends out messages from the universe. But this was a message from the universe the other day. Courageous is the soul who adventures into time and space to learn of their divinity. For while they cannot lose, they think they have, and the loss will seem intolerable. And while they cannot fail, they can think they have, and the pain will seem unbearable. And while they cannot ever be less than they truly are, powerful, eternal, and loved, they can think they are, and all hope will seem lost. And therein lies their test. a test of perceptions, of what to focus on, of what to believe in spite of appearances. So look at us. Look at ourselves. Look at each one of us. Look at what we have overcome just to be ourselves, just to be here on the planet today. What we could have been, could have done, all of that doesn't matter. We're here now, and we're agreeing to try again in this now moment, not surrendering to the circumstances that surround us, and choosing our battles, when to repel the bullets and when to duck. Superheroes walk among us every day, everywhere, and they start every morning in our mirrors. You know, we get so much bad news every day that occasionally some good news happens and little moments of superhero-ness get to be shared. This gentleman lives in Australia, and he lives across the road from this cliff. And, well, there it is. He's prevented around 160 suicides in his 50 years of living there by just talking to people who come to the cliff contemplating ending their lives, and he invites them in for tea. He doesn't know them. They don't know him. He's just doing it. And I experienced a moment like that I wanted to share with you because it was really powerful. It was back while I was on tour with the theater company, and we were in Florida at one of those motels. It's only about 3 stories, but what's under those 3 stories is a parking lot, and all the doors lead outward. And a young woman had perched herself on the railing of our 3rd floor and was poised herself to jump. And I heard her crying from inside my motel room, and I went to see what was up. And in my pajamas, which was my superhero costume of the day, armed only with the knowledge of what I knew that it felt like to be in that much pain, I started talking to her and then eventually talking with her. And I was able to reach her and encourage her to fall backwards so that I could catch her. And it was just this brief moment, this human-to-human moment that could have totally gone without happening, because I could have easily turned up my television and ignored the crying. My roommate at the time was a deaf actor, and he was like, "What's going on?" And I could have just easily said, "Nothing." The next morning at about 4:30 a.m., there was a knock on our motel room door, and the motel staff and owner gave me a certificate of heroism for what I did. And it was very sweet, and it was completely unnecessary. Because what I did is what I would have wanted anyone to do, for her or for me, to be a hero. Here's the cool part, though, the backstory, sort of. Your greatest test is being able to bless someone else while you are going through your own storm. What that young woman never knew about me made that moment so much more powerful. We become superheroes when we're able to put what is happening within us on hold to be there for someone else. And it's not about stuffing, and it's not about denying, and it's not about shelving our own experience. It's about looking at what is happening in front of us and saying, who am I right now to this person? I could have walked out on that balcony and started telling her about all my troubles and about my history and about how hard things have been for me. I could have gone out and said, and gone back in. I could have not gone out at all, thinking, well, you know, we've all got our problems. I could have told her to get over it. And I could have told her she needs to be grateful for all the good in her life, without ever acknowledging that clearly in that moment, she could not see any good in her life. So just to clarify what I'm talking about when I say putting ourselves sort of aside, I'm not saying that we should drain our wells to the point of not being able to care for ourselves. That is the symptom of a superhero with severe codependency issues. And there are some, we've seen them. We must take care of ourselves to be able to be there for others. You know, the whole oxygen mask on ourselves first. So when or where is this balance then? This balance between self-care, self-indulgence, self-involvement, self-serving, self-nurturing. It can get muddy. And I'm standing here, all right, here it comes. I'm going to out myself as a member of Superheroes Anonymous. Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a superhero who sometimes gives beyond the measure of what's in my well. Hi, Rachel. Thank you. What I also know to be true, though, is that if I allow myself to slip into my own stuff too much, I won't come back out of it. Being of service is what helps me, dare I say us, to not be in our stuff too much. It's that delicate balance. We have to know ourselves well enough to know the difference between when our well needs to be filled or when we're just wanting to retreat from the world for different reasons. This is another thing we have in common with the superheroes of the movies and comic book worlds. Many of them have dark stories, painful secrets, and very deep wells that don't always get refilled. And yet there they are, out there doing their thing. This one came to me while I was writing the talk, and I went, yeah, that's about it. That's it. You wake up every morning to fight the same demons that left you so tired the night before, and that, my love, is bravery. What we, the everyday superheroes, would benefit from remembering is this. Authentic giving can only happen when it is balanced with receiving. We battle and then we refill, and we battle and we refill. Receiving is best balanced then with a dose of giving. So if we only give until the point we are depleted and never take a time out to say, whoa, I need to refill, we're actually not doing anyone any good, including ourselves. So again, it's about balance. Being a superhero is about being balanced. Give, serve, show up always from your heart, always with the highest of intention. And when I feel tired or need some cave time, take it. We can say with love, I'm sorry, I just can't today. And truly mean it. And when we do that, we actually become superheroes. Another way that superheroes can show themselves to us is through forgiveness. I don't know how many of you are NPR listeners, but there's something that comes on NPR called StoryCorps. And StoryCorps is a national project where they collect and archive stories from everyday people. Just stories of their lives, stories of their experiences. And the topics are varied. It's fascinating. You can go, I think if you just use the Google and Google storycorps.com, and they're all archived. Fascinating stories. So on the 17th of April, which was the 20th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing, they played stories of two children who are now adults who had been in the daycare center of the Murrow building that day. The stories were about these children now as adults and their parents and what it was like on that day for all of them and what it's been like since. And one of the two kids is a young man named P.J. Allen. He had just turned 2 at the time of the bombing. He suffered broken bones, severe burns, and permanent damage to his lungs from inhaling debris. He has difficulty talking and breathing. He was unconscious for 2 to 3 weeks. He never really knew what had happened to him, and he never talked about that day with his dad. His dad, however, for 20 years, carried a painful secret about that day that he never wanted his son to know because he thought it might cause his son not to love him. And for StoryCorps, they sat down and he told the story. And his father shared, After all these years, 20 years, this is the first time we've sat down and I actually talked about the bombing. I've wanted to protect you, and I never wanted to relive it with you because I personally hold myself responsible for you getting hurt. I was supposed to take you to the daycare that day, but that morning when your mom was getting ready to go to work, she asked me if I wanted her to take you. I told her, well, you know, I'm pretty tired. I'm going to sleep another 30 minutes or so go ahead and take him. If I would have kept you at home with me, you wouldn't have got to the federal building until the bombing would have been over. You wouldn't have even been there. PJ had never known this about his father. He never knew his father blamed himself for what happened, or that he had nightmares about it still. And PJ told his dad this. He said, I don't want you to walk around with this burden. I want you to be alive inside. I'm never angry about my situation. I'm all right. I'm good. I like so many things about you, Dad. You're the coolest guy in the room. I'm like, all right, when I get to that age, I'll be just like him. Walk in and be the man. I wouldn't trade that for anything else in the world. I love you very much, and I'm glad that you're my dad. And I heard that story and I thought, two superheroes. They're both superheroes. The dad for being willing to admit the truth of that day and the burden that he's been carrying. And his son PJ, who still, you can hear when he speaks, it's still a struggle for him, but holds no grudge whatsoever and still sees his dad as the man he wants to be. So the reason, aside from them being superheroes and being awesome, the reason that I included that story in today's talk is no coincidence, because next Sunday is Father's Day. And for many people, including many of the kids that I work with, this day is very challenging. It can still be challenging for me, and this is my 39th Father's Day without my dad. My dad was, and still is, my first hero. He was my champion, he was my pal, my teacher, my Saturday morning companion, my role model. The thing is that heroes, even superheroes, stumble sometimes. They leave us. They have other things they need to get to. After 40 years, time does not touch this. He will always be a superhero to me. Here's the thing, though. When I look at what being a superhero really means, there's a spin on this story. See, it's easy for my dad to be a superhero for me because we had 12 years together that are now frozen in time forever. However, it is in the past 40 years that my mom has had to become the superhero in our family. She's saved lives. We were camping once and one of my friends choked and she did the Heimlich maneuver and she saved my friend's life. It was phenomenal. She's done battle against evil in the form of doctors who wouldn't listen about several of her daughters. She's leapt tall buildings. This one's metaphorical. Metaphorically speaking, dealing with having me as a daughter, she has leapt tall buildings. She is a committed and loyal friend and wife. And she also is improving the lives of so many in her hometown and globally with projects that are based in caring and nurturing. That, my friends, is being a superhero. A while back, there was a movie at the Beartooth called Walking the Camino, 6 Ways to Santiago. And it was co-produced by a friend of mine named Annie O'Neill. She co-produced it. She's also one of the pilgrims. She's the one with the braids who was so upset at one point and thought she couldn't make it. She's awesome. She's a brave and powerful woman. And just a couple days ago, she wrote this, and I asked permission to use it today because I said, your timing is perfect. So she gave me an enthusiastic, yes, do it, use it. So thank you. So this is what she wrote. I used to want to save someone from a burning building or pull them out of stormy seas. I think that would be what would make me a good person. A standout person. I thought if I was lucky, I could have a hero's moment a defining moment in my life that would prove that I am worthy, a moment that everything had been leading up to. I've come all the way around on what makes a hero's moment. I see them everywhere now, in the most mundane places, the most ordinary moments. Why wait for an emergency when your hero's moment might be encouraging someone to keep going when they may be on the verge of quitting? Wouldn't that be a more important gift to give someone? Very few people will even be in a burning building to be saved, but so many of us face personal difficulties that can be shared. We have burdens that can be lessened. We have hearts that can be healed, all by the kindness of another. If you woke up today and you didn't just roll over and surrender, you're a superhero. If you got out of bed today, you are a superhero. If you agreed to participate in life today, in whatever large or small way, you are a superhero. Some can't do that. Some are unable to do it. Some won't do it. Some are too filled with fear to even try. If you got up, put on clothes, and made it to the couch, you're a superhero. Some might say that that's setting the bar too low. Well, I say to those some who would say that they've never experienced life below that bar. For those of us who have, we know different. We are our own group of avengers, our own secret society of survivors who understand, and by simply showing up every day, we make a difference in our lives and in the lives of others. Just by healing, just by being. I was at the post office the other day and a woman was leaving and she was moving super slow with a cane. And in that moment I had a choice, be a superhero or go to my post office box. And so I held the door and it took a couple extra minutes and she just was astounded. You didn't have to do that. I did, I'm a superhero. It's my job. So the thing is, we don't need to do or be anything more than we are. As long as we remember who we are, who we truly are. You woke up and you said yes to today. So today, you are a superhero. Taking a breath. I invite you now to just take a moment and think about any moment or all of the moments or one particular moment in your life where you showed up. It could be that you showed up for yourself. It could be that you showed up for someone else. A moment when you totally set yourself aside to be there and say, I'm here for you. And you weren't thinking about glory, and you weren't thinking about headlines, and you weren't thinking about what people might say or getting certificates of heroism. You were just doing what needed to be done. You were doing what you were called to do. From those who join the Peace Corps and go do amazing work around the country, to those who hold doors, to those who stop and talk to the gentleman outside Walgreens, the vets who are just humbly standing there, willing to accept gifts and also willing to bless even if you don't gift them. To those friends who are battling health challenges that seem insurmountable. To friends who are just moving through times of change. To ourselves. as we overcome each obstacle of every day, globally, locally, internally. Every time we say yes, we become that superhero to ourselves, and maybe even to someone else. Remembering that God doesn't make mistakes. I can know in my heart that God, Spirit, the divine, the amazing creator, the infinite intelligence, created each of us to be superheroes. So let's be it. Let's own it in our own unique way. With deep gratitude, I say thank you. Thank you. Ashe.